All right, hello. Welcome to our final GameMaker presentation. We are going to be making a 2D platformer today. So we'll be going over some of the physics features built into GameMaker, how it handles collisions for you automatically and all that. And then we'll also be doing a little bit of a level select screen and how to transition between different rooms. All right, let's get into it. Also, Game Jam next weekend. Come to it, it's fun. Four fingers the other way. Here we are. Okay. So we're going to create a new game like always. We're going to call it whatever you need. And like last week, I have here a list of assets. And this time we're actually going to need to rename a few of these assets because I realized that I forgot something important. This one right here is a sprite strip. So it's a strip of 11 sprites in a row that when put together form an animation. And so GameMaker will actually automatically take a single image that's set up like this and process it into an animation, but you need to tell it how many sprites are in it. So what you need to do that is simply have the file end with underscore strip and a number, where the number is how many frames of animation there is. It is strip, right? I've got the files renamed on that computer. Yes, I did get that, right? Yes, and then this run animation will also need to be renamed like that as well. Yeah, it should be .png by default. Not all computers show file extensions, but yes, it just cares about the stuff before the file extension. All right, now that we have all of that, let us go drop in our sprites. Yep. Yes, in the sprites folder. Yep. There we go. We got all our sprites. And then you can see for our, where is it? Here we are. This is an example. This is our idle animation. And you can see here that it's been turned into an animation down at the bottom. And if we hit the play button, it will automatically preview the animation. Yes, it is a really convenient feature. Correct. The number I put at the end is how many images are in the strip. So ahead of time, I counted out these assets and I saw that there was 11 images in the idle animation strip and 12 images in the the running animation strip. So that's why I renamed them to be 11 and 12 respectively.
Yeah, there's no jumping animation.
There is not. The jump is just a single static image that, yep. All right. So first off, before we do the platformer part, let's go do a level select part so that I can show how transitions between different rooms work. All right. So let us create, first let's create some objects. We'll do 3 new objects. Actually, maybe only 1 new object. If I'm remembering this correctly, we're going to go slightly off script, but we have time. We can do that today. So we are going to create a level select button. Yes. And for the time being, we are going to set its sprite to just the sprite 0, 1. That's the little button that looks like a 1. Now we're going to put this into this object into the room because I think there's something that we can do with it in order to make it so instead of having 3 different objects, 1 for each level, we just have a single object and we can configure which level it sends us to. So let's open up our room real quick. First off, let's make this room look a little prettier so we don't just have a blank background. On the background editor here, if we scroll down where it says sprite down at the bottom, we can change that sprite to SPR gray. And then that puts our tiny little gray box in the top corner there. And then here we are. horizontal and vertical tile. So if we check both these boxes, then it will tile our image and we have a nice gray background. Just a bit more textured in the blank background. All right, now let us add in our instance. It is a very tiny button, but it will work for our purposes. Actually, you know what? We could even resize that. We got the scale setting down here at the bottom. You can modify that as with like scripts as well. You can have the object set its own scale, but alternatively, we can just set the scale manually right here. Like if I set it to 3 times as big in each direction, then the button starts to look a bit more reasonably sized.
Are you editing the object as a whole? Or just
No,
this instance?
well, you're editing this specific instance of the object. Right here, if you click on the instance, and it should be selected by default if you just dragged it in, then this right here is an instance inspector. You can see what it's looking at right here. It says it's an object instance, and then you can scroll down here and change some of its properties. So like I just changed the scale property here. And then you can also see down here, in addition to properties, there's variables and creation code. And what we are going to do is, can we add variable? Why do I see variables? Look right here. We can do creation code, honestly, because I'm not seeing anything under the variable subcategory. And like, we can literally just put in a variable here. So creation code, we're going to be running with GML Visual once more, just because that makes it easier for us to find blocks we haven't used before. Yeah. Are you finding the creation code?
Yes, I have the creation code.
Okay. Yep. Properties variable creation code. What? Oh. Variables lets you set the initial variables for an object. Creation code lets you set an initial line of code that's run when the object is created. And you can, theoretically, that's what we're going to do right here, set a variable in that initial line of code. So this is just a more flexible way. It gives us more possibilities, but we're only using a small portion of those possibilities here. And we are going to set a variable, and we are going to go room to go, and that is going to be 1. And that's all we're going to do here.
So then this says that once the button's created?
Yep, when this specific instance is created, it sets a variable called room to go equal to 1.
Not when you press it.
Correct. When it is created, this is its creation code. Yes. And it will specifically only apply for this individual instance. Yes, this very instance right here, which we are about to take advantage of with a little thing called Control-C, Control-V. Come on. It is not letting me copy and paste it. I do not know math. There we go! Yep, because we got 3 different level buttons that I've just put in as assets. So, and so again, we've copied it exactly, so it still has the creation code of room to go equals 1. So we're just going to change that to equals 2. Actually, hold on, we could do something a little bit better, because we can also do image, dang it, there we go, set sprite to 2. There we go. I was going to have a step event inside the main object that said each step, if the room to go is 1, set sprite to 1. If room to go is 2, set sprite to 2. this is an alternate way of doing that. Since we're only having each of these appear once, we can easily put this in there. And then likewise, same thing over here. Room to go equals free. Sets. That is the brightness setting. Yep. There we go. And now so far the buttons won't do anything when we click on them, but if I run the game right now, they should all appear with different sprites, despite the fact that they are just instances of the same object. We've made them differently at create. And there you have it. All right. So now let's actually start making rooms for these to go to. So first off, let's just create the other rooms for now. We will leave them blank, but room, free new rooms for free new buttons. Now you can see here that the top room has a little home next to it. All of the others don't. That's because the top room is the default main room. Whenever you launch the game, it will go into that room by default. And then from, yes, you can. You can, I think it has to do with room order. Yes, because I put room 2 on top of room 1 in the order, so that means room 2 will come first. I just right-clicked and went right-clicked on this. There it is, this thing right here. That allows you to change the room order. And that's also important because there is, in addition to being able to go to specific rooms, there's also a quick shortcut command that says go to previous room or go to next room. And correct, this is how you assign what previous and next means. Alright, but again, let's not mess with that for now because we would like room 1 to be the top room. But yes, and then just so we visually differentiate these a little bit, we will have room 2 have no background, room 3, we will, oops, not that editor, we will have room 3's background be like tilesome terrain, just giant wall of dirt. And then rooms 4 background. This isn't really relevant to anything. I'm just creating something so when we actually know visually when we enter a room, what room we just entered. Yeah, and since this is the third room, we will have a giant free button tiling the whole thing. And you can... Alright. So, now let's go to our object and actually create the code that switches in between these rooms. So we are going to want to switch when we click on it. So again, left pressed. That will call up an event that triggers when you click the left mouse button on this object.
So this specific instance? Or
Nope.
the object as a
The object as a whole.
What's the event?
Left pressed. Mm-hmm. If statement first. So go to room, because we want to go to a specific room. Go to next is what I was telling you about previously. You can use the room hierarchies to set up like what the next and what the previous room should be for each room. But right now we want to see, so if room to go is equal to 1, go to room 2, then, yep. There we go. 2, 4. And there we go. That should do it. And we can test again. Now I'm realizing as we test this, I've not given you a way back. So you can go to a room, but you can't go back to the main menu. But we can easily handle that. But like, we click on this, we go to room 2, and there we go. We said room 2 was the grass room, so it works indeed. Alrighty, now that we've gotten the level select out of the way, let's actually start work on the platformer part of it. Starting with, we'll create the train first. OBJ terrain. And obviously we're going to want to use this sprite for it. What? Yep, anything works. You can call it OBJ ground, you can call it OBJ Steven. Whatever works. And I don't believe you need to include any type of code or events whatsoever in this. This is just going to be a solid object for the ground. The one thing you do need to do is, because this will be a solid object, you right-click this checkbox right here. Yes. It doesn't use physics. Because that is for, so what we're doing right here is we're just doing like a really basic, like how gravity works and all of that. We're not doing anything complicated with objects colliding with each other. If we wanted to do that, like a sort of pachinko game where the ball rolls around and actually bounces using realistic physics, then we would want to do that. But because we're just simulating just gravity is straight down, then we don't need to check this box. So that is our entire terrain object right there. Most of the complicated stuff we will be doing today is going to come from the main character object. So here we go. OBJ player. And we are going to set its sprite to the idle animation. All right. So let's start making some events for it, starting with a create event. And we are going to create a couple of things for it. We are going to create get some variables in there first of all. And so we have a lot of variables that are already preset for us, like the X and Y position. Those are variables that are obviously initially created and handled by GameMaker. So, but some other stuff, like you may remember the DX and DY variables from the Pico 8 workshop. Those are not, so we'll have to manually create those ourselves. Yes, that will be its X velocity. And this flow button right here, this plus sign, allows you to actually stack multiple variables in a single call. So just if you want to save space, instead of using 2 different variable blocks, you can just use one with that little plus button. Just a space saving tool. So why did it get bigger when I did that? Okay, so dx and dy equals 0. And then, and it should be animated already. The one thing that we can do, just in case like you think the bobbing animation is going too slow or too quick, is this right here, set animation speed. We can set that to, I don't remember what units this is stored in. You can mess around with the units. I'm going to assume 0.8 will make it go slower than usual. Okay, and let's start actually creating the movement part of it. What? I believe, because there's two different ways we can do that. And I think the better way to do that is going to be using key down events. Yes, this will fire every step as long as you were holding down the specified key. And so forget when in the order they go. We'll use the begin and end steps to control that. So trying to remember what actually we need to do for this. We need left is move left. Actually, no, we can do this in step, right? Because, yeah, we can do this in step too. We can just do if key pressed. That'll probably be easier. No, pressed. I misspoke earlier. Pressed is if it is currently being pressed. Down is fires once when the key is pushed down, and up is fires once. I mean, release is once when it's released. Right? We've had this issue. I keep forgetting. All right, we will try key down. Let's do something very simple. So if key down, then we are going to, how about we just do something very simple? If we hold down the right key, it's going to switch to its run animation. Otherwise, it will be in its idle animation. That is going to be what we test right now to make sure I got everything right. So it is literally just set sprite. And we set sprite to run. And we can also adjust the frame right here. So like you can say it starts on frame 6 of the run animation instead of frame 0. But we don't need to do anything like that for this purpose. And then, of course, we have grab an else block. And correct. Okay. And this should be the test code that we need. Let's go to room 2, actually. I'm going to just have that same background tiled. And then while we're here, we can even like take some of this terrain and yes. Yeah. Aha, it is not aligned to the grid. Let's change that. This terrain is 48 by 48 pixels wide. So if you click on the room here, it opens up room properties. Room 2, thank you. Oh, where's this property? No, physics is not it. Background? That's not going to be it. Oh my goodness. And this is why I shouldn't save things. I know how to do this in GameMaker 8 from over a decade ago. I don't know how to do this in the new version. Trying to figure out how to change the, because you can see here that there's grid lines where things snap to the grid 16 pixels apart. Trying to see if there's a way to change that to 48. Because Open Editor just opens this window. Mm-hmm. Here. We'll get around the issue. I know how to make it aligned to the terrain. Scale 2. Scale 2. Wow, would you look at that? It fits perfectly within a 3x3 grid. I just increased the scale values to make it bigger. And then from there, we can just copy and paste this big tile. I'm just going to create. Just this tiny little thing here. And then we'll drag the player. And the player looks so small compared to this. I'm going to make the player bigger too. It looks like this sprite pack was designed for a slightly bigger thing. Yes. Okay. Well, at the very least, we don't need to mess around with that. I got slightly ahead. We are here for one reason, and that is to see what exactly happened. Why is it not moving? No, you were right. Yeah. Well, while we're holding it down, it's in the right state. But the point is, why is it not actually animating? Did I get the animation speed wrong? 90. Change that to. No, wait. I know what's happening. I know what's happening. Because it is checking every single frame and resetting us back to frame 0 of the animation. Yes, well, frame 0. So it's never moving to frame 1. It's always resetting us to frame 0 each step. So then you check this relative box right here, which says change the position by 0 frames. So it will always go to the frame it was at beforehand. Yeah, why? Why would it be giving me a red line? I think else statements always do that. Okay. Anyways, I think you were right. I think it is keyed down. Let me just see here. There we go. Look at him go. Goes back to normal. So the thing that I checked there was the relative box, because otherwise it was trying to reset it back to frame 0 every single step. But yeah. All right, let's start making him move. We will take care of that very shortly. Actually, you know what? Let's real quick. No, we can do that in here. So if key down v right variables. Oops. Let us start off with resetting our dx to 0 each frame. We're going to have some nice snappy movement this time. So, well, we create it to be 0. And in each frame, we're going to change it. So at the start of the frame, we set it back to 0. Then, if you're holding down the right key, then we set dx to, we'll say 2. And then we also need to make sure we're facing the right way, set image scale. Mm-hmm. What did you do? How have you made a ghost? Have you killed my frog?
No, I just flip it around by saying the scale, but
Yeah, because we manually changed the scale times 2.
yeah, so I just have to do another 2.
Yeah. Well, no, my what? Yes, Mistborn. You've read it?
Little bit.
Oh, I've read the whole series. Everything by Brandon Sanderson is so good. We have to talk about more of this later. This is important. This is very important. Yes. So, whoa, it's too far. So the important part is you can't actually use the relative checkbox to flip this around right here. It because that will add however much to the scale. So like if I create this, then oh, this is not going to be so we have checked the relative checkbox. It's going to add 2 to its scale every frame we're holding it down, so it's just going to get significantly bigger. We want to set it to 2 because that is the scale we are at. The main reason we're doing that, this shouldn't change anything from what we've initialized it as, but the point is, if I copy all of this and drag it down into yes. And drag it into the else block. Yes. Oop, no. Yes. So we have if key down is right, then we set our sprite to running, set dx to 2, and set our scale to 2, 2. Else, if key down here is left, so this is going to be what happens when we move left, we want to set it to the same sprite as before, don't change anything there, but set dx to -2 and set the horizontal scale to -2. This should work. Yep. Else. Yep. Yes, else to the second key down. So if you're holding the right key, then move right. Else, if you're holding the left key, move left. Else, then this is going to be where we reset the sprite back to the idle animation. In the left thing, you do, yes.
Could I just be running like backwards like this?
No, horizontal scale. Change horizontal scale to -2 as well. And I think this is actually going to look slightly incorrect, but I know how to fix this. Let me just confirm that it does look slightly incorrect. Yes, we are using 2 out statements because we would use an if-else block if we could, but this language, the block language, doesn't have it. It just has if and else, so we have to nest those together. Okay. So the other thing is the fact that it flips around weirdly. That is because we didn't change the origin of this. So it is, when we were flipping the sprite like that, it is treating the origin of the sprite as the top left corner because that's the default. So what we need to do is go to this sprite. And for all of these, we need to go do, this should be familiar if you were here at the tower defense thing. We find the origin thing right here, and we change that to middle center. And then we need to go find all of our player sprites and change origin to middle center. Yes, and you can do this for the other 2 player sprites as well preemptively, since they all need to have the origin at the same place for them to line up properly. Middle center. Yep. And then real quick, I'm going to go into my room, and we've got this guy sort of kind of floating now, so let's... Correct. 1 for running, 1 for jumping, 1 for falling, and 1 for standing still. So theoretically, this should be good now. So if I run it, moving right, moving left, and it turns on a dime.
The scale changes. Is that intentional?
Did you set the scale values to the same amount I did? Well, the same amount as you did previously, because they should all line up. Like when I initialized the character, I set the scale to 2. So in all statements here, I've also set the scale to 2. If you initialized him as free, but then later set him to 2 here, then that could be causing issues. Try setting all of your scale numbers to free and to negative free. Here we are. Move and collide. This is the block that we want to use. It will move the character, but it will also simulate the character colliding with any solid objects and will stop them when they do. So we want this to come after all of the else statements, so it's not dependent on any of them. It is back out in the what is in the leftmost column. Mm-hmm. Move and collide. And then I forget how this works. They've changed it again. I believe the object is the object you want it to collide with. So it will collide with terrain. The x distance will be dx. The y, no, dx, thank you. The y distance will be dy. And then the iterations, offset, and all of that, you do not need to worry about that. Yes, this is inside player. Is it working? Like, are you able to actually collide with the box?
I collide when I stick to it.
Huh. Just making sure this actually causes sticking to it and not like our left button being broken for some reason. Yeah, you can move left. You can move right. Yes, I set the value to a very small value. But then you touch the box. Why would you be doing this to me? Did not do that when I was testing. Gonna make you faster. We'll see if that gets you out of it. I just multiplied it by 10. So you are now, oh, you're very fast. This does not work. Now you're not touching the ground. Were you always not touching the ground? Okay, so going faster did not help. We have gotten stuck in the same location. Maybe it's because, yes, maybe it's because of the hitbox issue. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's a different issue because this is a lot more intelligent than that. It automatically takes care of that issue for us. But I think what's happening is, you see here how the center point is not 100% aligned with the gray hitbox. So when it flips, it also flips the hitbox and clips the hitbox into the terrain. So what if we... Yes. That's going to be the worst hitbox. We'll test to see if this is the issue. So for now, I've set the hitbox to full image. So the hitbox is not going to be accurate with the sprite at all. But yeah. And we can only do that. Let's just do that for just the jumping. I mean, yeah, the running and idle for now. Just because those are the only two we're working with right now. Okay, does that fix the issue? Did I change the speed? We might still be going at 10 times speed. Yeah. Yes, it does.
Does it?
Does on my end.
It's a hitbox issue.
Yes.
What were we using last time?
It is different than what we were seeing last time. Because what we're seeing last time, again, that's automatically handled. But this time the issue is the hitboxes are different depending on what way you're facing. And this is why I should have tested it using the actual sprites instead of a rectangle that I mocked up in 10 seconds.
I mean, you could just modify the hitbox
Yes.
so that it's like 1 pixel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, we'll need to manually set the hitbox to something that works and makes sense. Yes, it's collision mask is what the game calls it. So if it's set to full image because it's symmetrical, then it works. If I manually set it, that's probably going to make things worse. We'll set it to a rectangle. When I set it to manual, it created these black rectangles here, and then I can drag them in. Probably not. Again, the thing that matters is that it is mirror symmetrical. So when we flip the sprite mirroring it around, it won't change the way the hitbox looks. So like if I drag this point in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why we need to do it manually. These numbers should work right here. So left is 5, 7. Left and top is 5, 7. Right and bottom is 26, 31. And then I am going to update the run animation with the same thing. 5, 7, 26, 31. Yep. 26, 31. Yes, right here. These numbers are on the screen right now. Yes, and you can see the issue is worse here. But that is what it's going to have to do, and it does not really matter if that tiny part clips into terrain. It's going to barely be noticeable. I'm going to test it just to make sure I got those numbers right. Alright, so it's not sticking anymore. Good. I need to turn the speed back down, but it looks like we have proper horizontal collision. And with a half hour left, it is time to turn on the gravity. Yes. So, first off, I'm going to set my speed back to normal. So, the only thing you need to change is that object is obj terrain, and that your x and y distances are dx and dy. Okay. Yep, everything else is the same. Iterations is like, are you familiar with Pan and Colic's Mario speedrunning videos?
No.
Okay, because it is a thing that I first learned about through those videos. He explains it very well. Basically, instead of just checking to see like, okay, we're going to move you 2 pixels forward, do you collide with a wall there? You give it a number of iterations, in this case 4, and it will check like 1/4 of the way, 2/4 of the way, 3/4 of the way, and if you collide with a wall at that step, it knows you're going to be colliding at the end as well, so it just puts you backwards to that wall that you collided with.
Yeah.
It's just a way of making it more accurate. Yes. I did not explain it well. Pan and Co explains it very well. Also very funny. He also, same person who talks about parallel universes and half A presses. Yeah, that guy.
Okay, I think I did everything then.
Anyways, so we are going to have another variable here. Forgot that we needed this one. It is going to be grounded. And that is going to be false. And obviously that is just going to be a simple Boolean. Actually, no, we'll set it as false and then we'll manually update it to true if you start on the ground. But again, that is just true if you're standing on the ground and you have the ability to jump, and false otherwise. So we will, no wait, no, we don't need this. Because we can just do if object at place. This is different than what I remember. Yeah. We don't need all those bottom settings. Again, obj terrain, and we want that to be relative 18. No, wait, no. Yeah. I hope that 34 is going to be the right number here. Again, I tested it with different sprites. This actually is probably going to be different for you depending on what scale you are at. And in this case, I believe for me, this is the number that we need to use. Both these check boxes should be relative. We want to see if this position, what we are looking for is if there is ground directly underneath your feet. And so this relative box will say 0, 0 is the player's center point, which we set up previously. And so I am going with, no, I'm just going to make all of the math way easier. Let's change the, it's going to be a bit tedious, but because the thing we want to know is what's happening at the player's center point. So instead of setting origin to middle center, set it to bottom center right here.
Since we're going to be falling.
Yes, because that bottom point, whether that point is colliding with the ground or not, that's the most important thing. So if we set it to the bottom, then that makes, it would work if it's in the middle, but sending it to the bottom makes our math a whole lot easier. Yeah. So just all the sprites again. Yep. Bottom center.
Does that if statement check the origin of the sprite?
Yes, it will check relative to the origin of the sprite. And then while we are at it, what's also changed on these, because I know these are correct now, manually set the collisions to 5, 7, 26, 31 for the jumping and falling animations. And then here's falling, so 5, 7, 26, that's 2726, 26, 31. 26, 31. Yep. And again, these numbers are just numbers that I manually calculated here. And the only thing to note is that it is the same number of pixels left as it is right. So it's symmetrical that direction. Okay. So now that we've actually done that, that makes our math very easy. We'll do y equals 2 or 1. It doesn't really matter. 2 will work. It'll give us, we'll do 1. Just to give slightly better precision. 2 would be slightly more accurate, but also liable to leave your character maybe floating a pixel or 2 off the ground. So, again, what we are doing is we are checking the pixel directly below the play. Actually, no, I think we do need to, if I remember my tasks. Sorry. So, if there is an object terrain there, let's just implement this and I can see whether I was right or wrong. Actually, we need this above the previous one. Yes, if goes first. Yep. And then we need another key press event or key down event. No, this one would be key press because we want, we'll do up as jump because this is going to be the up button. Yes. So if there's an object directly below you, aka if you're standing on the ground, then if you press the up button, and if both those things are true, your character will jump. Yes. And we will say that a jump means that we will assign, assign dy to 12. We'll fiddle with the numbers. Yeah, if I got the numbers wrong, it's going to jump super high. Oh, and we can still do this with an else statement. So this time the else is going to go as an else statement to the if object at place. So this is saying, because what we are doing here is if there is ground directly below you, then you can jump. If not, then we're going to simulate gravity on you. So to simulate gravity, we are just going to decrease dy by like 0.25 relative. This needs to be a negative value because 0 is higher, positive numbers are lower. So it will set it to negative 12 and then increase it by 0.25 per frame. Yes, the dy variable. And then we'll worry about adding animations in a second. Right now, I just want to test to make sure that all of my logic here is correct. It looks like it's working. All right. Now I am noticing another issue, which is that I seem to be clipping into the terrain when I land, and that's not right. Is it after I jump? Yeah. I don't know. 1 second.
I think it's the same issue with what we were having before. After you jump, you can move around.
Okay. So it's not the same issue. What's happening with our code? Let's increase the number of iterations to make things more precise. I'm going to even triple it. We'll say 12 iterations. Whoa. Why are you moving so fast? Oh, I know what I am doing. It is still thinking that you're supposed to be moving down. So it is still applying a very high force downwards on you at this point. That's why it was sticking into the terrain and why it's snapping forward so quickly. Okay, so that's because we didn't tell it to reset your y velocity when it hits 0. It still has an incredibly high y velocity, but because it's constantly hitting the ground, that velocity doesn't matter. But as soon as it steps off the ground, then it starts to matter again. Like you can see, like normally you fall with normal gravity, but when I step off of this, you like snap down. So here, let me fix that. Yeah, set dy to 0 right here. So the instant it says if you're colliding with the terrain above this key up pressed event, yes. And then that should hopefully mean that you don't get that weird speed bonus. You don't clip into the terrain. Yeah. And you fall off ledges normally with a reasonable fall arc. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to decrease my jump down to like 8, maybe. Okay. And now finally, the last big thing that I wanted to do was, well, animation first. You've got the jumping animation and the falling animation. But that's just a really simple if statement. Well, if dy is greater than 0, and we're doing this here in the else statement of the object at place. So we're saying if there is no object at the place below you, aka if we're in air, yes, then if dy is greater than 0, then we want to change our sprite to jumping. And we want to make sure to set this relative box here. And then out.
Assign the variable if the dy is greater than 0, set sprite.
Yeah, less than 0. My bad, because I got because 0 is at the top left corner.
Oh wait, this is in the else statement?
Yes, this is in the else statement. Yes. So if you're in midair and your dy is less than 0, then that means you're moving upwards, so you should look like you're jumping. Otherwise, you are moving downwards, so it should look like you're falling. Yep. Yes, the jumping and falling are one frame. I'm still setting the frame value relative just so it doesn't mess with anything else in the other animations. Yes, they're both. Yeah. So this is the else statement off of the object at place.
Yeah. So you say dy is 0.25?
Yes, we're adding 0.25 to it.
And then you put your
Yes.
if dy is greater than 0, then we're in the air.
Yeah, no. We're less than 0 means you're going up. Greater than 0 means you're going down.
Oh, we're falling.
Well, no. Well, if you're in midair and going up, then it needs to look like you're in the jump animation.
Yeah.
If you're in midair and going down, it needs to look like you're in the falling animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, 0, 0 is the top left corner, so negative values make you go up. That's why we're saying if your y velocity is a negative value, you look like you're going up. That's why we're having a less than 0.
But also,
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
this doesn't work if you're standing still and you jump while you're standing still.
It doesn't?
Because then your else statement at the very end says you're supposed to stand there.
Not the way I have it set up in the code. It shouldn't. Yeah, see?
Wait, what? Where is mine?
Yes. Zoom out. Because my else statement right here, this is as far as it zooms out. So here's all of my key left and right events. And then this else statement right here, this is where we set your sprite to the standstill sprite if you are.
Wait, I thought an object that doesn't be
No, I said it just needs to be above the move and collide. Yes, I'm sorry. But yes, that's that.
So if object in place, if it's greater than 0, right? After you have your image object at place, you just check if it's going up, right?
Yes, with the if less than 0. Yes. I just want to put up some blocks here just so I can try bonking my head on them. Because I think bonking my head could work. It's not magnetism, it's still trying to do gravity on you.
Oh. So should we just check if it collides while jumping? We should,
Yeah.
reset it down.
Yeah, we can do that. That would be a little bit tricky because it depends on the scale of your guy, but yeah, let's do that real quick. No, but I don't want to have to explain particle systems. I don't understand particle systems. I can like go over what weird logic I figured out. All right, so okay, so we want to again be in this out statement right here after the if object at place. So if we are in mid-air, then we need another copy of if object at place. And that will be right here. After we apply gravity, but before we update the player's sprite, we put this if object at place right here. And then what we are doing is we are selecting an asset. So if it is object terrain at position, now this is where you're going to need to bear with me because we need to calculate exactly how high up that is. So like, and
If object at place.
so we can see here that so this thing right here is 7 minus 31 pixels tall, which is 24 pixels tall, I think if my math is correct. So our hitbox is 24 pixels tall, but because my character is taller than that, because we've set the scale to 2, it's actually 48 pixels. So for
that's depending on your
yes,
mask.
so you would need to, it is dependent on my mask and the scale by which I multiplied my character's height by. So you need to calculate both those things and determine how tall your character is times the scale of that, and then just add another 2 free points to it. That's why I said this was slightly complicated. This is for,
if
yes.
we hit something
Checking.
while jumping, we need to make sure that our gravity
Yes, reset back down to 0.
Gets reset, because while we're jumping, it looks like, and we hit something, it looks like we're just floating in the air and then fall down. It's not actually detecting we're hitting something in the air.
Yes. So that would be negative 50 for me. And then in that case, we just set the variable dy back to 0.
And you check your x and y values, what you call it, from which sprite of the frog when it's jumping?
It should not matter. They should have the exact same hitboxes. And they should all have the exact same hitboxes.
5, 7, 26, 30.
Yes.
Okay. So are you just taking the top and bottom values?
Yep, and subtracting them in order to get the height. If your heights are 7 to 31, then that should be 24 if you subtract it.
It would be.
Yes.
And you put that for what? Y?
Yep, for y, except again, I multiplied that by my frog's scale, which in my case, I'm having my frog to be twice as high, so that 24 becomes 48, and then I'm adding another 2 pixels on top of that.
Where did you check where we multiplied that?
Well, your scale. What's your scale of your frog? when you're setting the X scale and Y scale, what are you setting it to?
I think it was just 2. CNC.
Anyways, I've goofed.
Floating. The hitbox is.
Or,
Well, now it's even worse because now we're just flying.
yes. Let's try something different. Let's have this number. Maybe I don't need to multiply it. Maybe. Anyways, I'm setting this to 0.5, so you get some amount of initial downwards momentum. Give me 1 sec to test this, and I'll explain what I did. Because there's no easy way to get that number.
It's dependent on what we told
Yeah.
the scale of our character and the hitbox of our character.
Why is this being so weird? Okay, I don't know the exact mathematical way you're supposed to get that Y value. Fortunately, trial and error always works. So that is probably going to be what I end up doing. Wait, the answer is just -1.
Why -1?
It's doing it for me. I didn't expect it to do that. I think it's automatically detecting because we're doing negative relative. We want to know how far it is above the top of the player. So it's automatically adjusting it so the 0 position is the top of the player and then we're going 1 above that. I think. Try -1. Try if -1 works. And I'm going to say GameMaker is kind in doing things for you in ways that I did not expect.
It's less time. You put it outside of it.
Yeah, I put that block of code outside of it. And the thing that's in the if statement right here is this, which is sets your the y velocity to 0.5, aka a slight amount downwards. So if you bonk your head, it immediately sets your position going a slight amount downwards.
So that video that you had where you said value like the 0.25, you put in that
Well, relative or absolute? Because
relative.
that goes at the top here.
Okay. And then do it again with the line.
But this time we don't check the relative box.
And it's 0.1. And still 0.15.
That works too. Either one works.
Hello. Yeah, there you go.
Is something bad
I
happening?
didn't get caught in the corner. I just got stuck in the middle of the line.
How? Ooh.
Yeah. Let's try that again. I think it's something. It's probably but doing fine. It worked once.
Yes, quickly wrap it up.
We can just end it here if you want.
Yes, 10-second wrap up. Thank you very much for coming. 2 more things. 2 more. What are these called? Workshops. There's the word. 8 o'clock hired. 2 more workshops in a game jam next week. Hope to see you there. It's going to be fun. Give me the dopamine by leaving me feedback, and have a wonderful night.